Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans on this Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. I'd like to bring you an update pertaining to Mr. Harvey Weinstein. As most of you know, he was sentenced to 23 years in prison today and addressed his accusers in court. Said information is by CNN News. Harvey Weinstein was sentenced Wednesday in a New York courtroom to 23 years in prison, the culmination of a case that fueled the global Me Too movement and encouraged women to speak out against sexual abuse. I really feel remorse for the situation, the former Hollywood producer said, his voice barely audible as he addressed the court before the sentence was handed down. I feel it deeply in my heart. I will spend my time really caring and really trying to be a better person. I'm not going to say these aren't great people. I had wonderful times with these people, Weinstein said of his accusers. It is just, I'm totally confused, and I think men are confused about all these issues. Weinstein, 67, arrived at his sentencing hearing in a wheelchair and in handcuffs. He had faced between 5 and 29 years in prison for last month's convictions on first-degree criminal sexual act and third-degree rape. Judge James Burke sentenced him to 20 years in prison for criminal sexual act and 3 years in prison for rape. The sentences will run consecutively and both come with 5 years of supervision after release, and Weinstein must register as a sex offender. This is a first conviction, but it is not a first offense, Burke said. Weinstein wore a blank face as he was taken out of the courtroom. His accusers cried together in the front row. Afterward, the prosecutors and leaders of the Me Too movement praised the lengthy sentence. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance said it puts sexual predators and abusive partners in all segments of society on notice. Weinstein's defense attorneys had asked that he be sentenced to 5 years in prison and argued that, given his frail health, anything longer would constitute a de facto life sentence. Defense Donna Rotuno lambasted the 23-year punishment as obscene, obnoxious, and cowardly, and she argued that Weinstein did not get a fair trial. There are murderers who will get out of court faster than Harvey Weinstein will. That 23-year number spoke to the pressure of movements in the public. That number did not speak to the evidence that came out of trial, she said. The charges were based on testimony by Miriam Haley and Jessica Mann, who both spoke at the sentencing. Haley testified that Weinstein forcibly performed oral sex on her in 2006 at his Manhattan apartment, and Mann testified that he raped her in 2013 during what she described as an abusive relationship. If Harvey Weinstein had not been convicted by this jury, it would have happened again and again and again, Haley told the court Wednesday. I'm relieved he will now know he's not above the law. I'm relieved there are women out there who are safer because he's not out there. Weinstein also faces felony charges of forcible rape, forcible oral copulation, sexual penetration by use of force, and sexual battery by restraint in Los Angeles. Prosecutors say he raped one woman and sexually assaulted another in separate incidents over a 2-day period in February 2013. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office has begun the process of extraditing him to California to face those charges. The agency said in a tweet, no arraignment has been set. Weinstein's statement came as a surprise. Weinstein's comments in court were unexpected. In general, defendants planning to appeal a guilty verdict or who face other charges do not speak at sentencing because what they say can be used against them, according to Michelle Simpson-Tuggle, an attorney who has worked in criminal defense. Weinstein, who did not testify during the trial, spoke without prepared remarks for about 20 minutes, continuing even as defense attorney Arthur Adala repeatedly and quietly asked him to stop talking. At one point, his attorneys asked for a pause and conferred with him. When he began speaking again, he said he lost his train of thought. Weinstein said he believed the relationships with women who spoke out against him were consensual, mentioning man. I really was under that impression that I had that kind of relationship. 5 years with Jessica, he said. He lamented how the allegations had impacted his personal life. The thing for me is I have not seen my 3 older children since the New Yorker article came out, he said, referring to October 2017 story about his story of alleged sexual abuse. I have not seen them. I just have no idea what they are doing, and I'm in no communication with them. That for me is hell on earth. Weinstein said he's worried about this country and people's rights to due process. He also told the judge that he wanted to testify during the trial, but his attorneys warned him that it would hurt his case. Outside court, Rotuno said Weinstein feels terrible and is confused about the sentence, adding that she supported his decision to speak in court. I'm happy that Harvey spoke. Harvey has been silent for years. I think Harvey could have said anything today. It wouldn't have mattered. Rotuno said. From Harvey's perspective, Harvey needed to do that, and I'm glad that he was able to do so. Haley Mann and four other women who testified against Weinstein at his trial, actress Annabella Sciorra, and three prior bad acts witnesses, arrived to court with prosecutors and sat in the front row. That bad acts comment, that don't sound good. Okay, actress Rosie Perez, who testified in support of Sciorra's claims, walked in with them and sat in the second row. Weinstein was acquitted of two more serious charges of predatory sexual assault, which could have come with a life sentence. He has been in state custody since the verdict and has several health issues. He had a heart procedure last week during which doctors inserted a stent, and on Sunday he fell while at Rikers Island, his publicist Judah Engelmayer told CNN News. In court before the sentence was delivered, Haley broke down crying as she described during her victim impact statement being assaulted by Weinstein. I believe that when he attacked me that evening with physical force, with no regard for my cries and protests, it scarred me deeply, mentally and emotionally, Haley said. Haley said that the past 2 years have been excruciating, filled with paranoia and daily fear of retaliation, and while testifying against Weinstein was difficult, it did help Haley process what had happened to her, she said. Excuse me. Haley felt Weinstein showed a lack of remorse or acknowledgement for his crimes, she said, and she asked the judge to consider a sentence long enough for Harvey Weinstein to acknowledge what he has done. Mann, minutes later, asked Burke to impose the maximum sentence for rape in the third degree, with sentences served concurrently. Mann wants the gift of knowing exactly where Weinstein is at all times, she said, adding she hopes he'll be rehabilitated in prison. 12 people found Harvey unanimously guilty of raping me. That is not an easy task, she said. Mann also referenced drug charges that she said carried longer sentences recommendations than third-degree rape. How am I not worth more than cocaine, she said. Weinstein has denied all allegations of non-consensual sexual activity related to the New York case and other claims made against him. Defense asks for 5 years in prison. Assistant District Attorney Joanne and Lucy Orban referenced the submitted sentencing memo that she said detailed additional accounts of victims of Weinstein's abuse and show his lack of human empathy, selfishness, and a life rooted in criminality. One assistant told prosecutors Weinstein threatened to kill her and her entire family, and Lucy Orban said. The prosecutor also described the glamorous lifestyle Weinstein lived as a giant of the movie industry. He got drunk on the power, Lucy Orban said. Young, struggling dreamers were not real people to him. Lucy Orban read a profile of Weinstein given to hotel employees in which they were cautioned, do not go near the car, do not speak at him, do not look at him, stay away. Also noted Weinstein's significant legal representation, stating she thought his defense team made every reasonable argument it should have and could have made on his behalf. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office argued in an 11-page court filing last week that Weinstein should receive a sentence that reflects the seriousness of defendant's offenses. He led a lifetime of abuse towards others, sexual and otherwise, prosecutors argued, and they highlighted 36 uncharged incidents and accusations. Starting in the 1970s, he has trapped women into his exclusive control and assaulted or attempted to assault them, Lucy Orban wrote in a letter. Weinstein's defense attorneys wrote in a sentencing letter that their client's personal charitable giving, advanced age, medical issues, and lack of a criminal history should lead to a lower sentence. They wrote that his life has been destroyed since the article of the New Yorker that alleged systematic abuse of women in the entertainment industry. His wife divorced him. He was fired from the Weinstein Company, and in short, he lost everything, the attorneys wrote. The attorneys also cited the collateral consequences he continues to face. Mr. Weinstein cannot walk outside without being heckled. He has lost his means to earn a living. Simply put, his fall from grace has been historic, perhaps unmatched in the age of social media, according to the letter signed by attorneys Damon, Sharonis, Rotuno, and Adala. This is the said information by CNN. Sorry, it's a bit lengthy. First of all, yes, last week, on Sunday rather, Mr. Weinstein fell in jail and hit his head, and this happened because instead of him using a wheelchair on Sunday, I guess he attempted to walk. He resided in a cell with two older gentlemen, and they're basically saying from this Miss Judah Engelmeyer, a representative, that he has the same schedule as others on Rikers Island. He was transferred to the Bellevue Hospital on that Sunday in Manhattan. to the infirmary in New York City jail on Rikers Island after operation on his heart to remove a blockage. As of the update, due to him not having any phone time, he resided in an infirmary ward. So she's basically saying that, as far as she knew, he was still in the infirmary at that time, and that was Sunday. So he's had some issues falling and yah. And as you see, he's lamenting, he has remorse, this, that, and the other. Before I have the problem with this said information, because you can verify all this information through CNN if you like. The fact that he admits to having a relationship with one of the women and that he thought everything was fine and consensual. And the fact that his team wrote a letter to the judge stating that he has been portrayed unfairly. Well, I feel like he did that to himself. Mr. Weinstein, you did that to yourself. As far as your life being ruined, you did that to yourself. The fact that you're so confused, you did all this to yourself. You were labeled a bully, monster, predator years ago. Laughed and whispered about amongst people in Hollywood who knew your behavior. So obviously, it was not a secret that you like to throw yourself on women and corner women and try to lure women into your fold, be hotel room, wherever you were staying. That was your MO. Luring women back to your hotel room, yah. So anything that happened to you, I feel like you did to yourself. And that's my said information pertaining to this sentence of Mr. Weinstein. And as it was stated, he should not have spoke during this this trial, because it can be used against him in the next trial, which he does have current charges stemming out of Los Angeles. And as you see, he will be transferred to LA to appear in court for said charges there. So he didn't do himself any justice by speaking up. Now, we know naturally everyone has the right to speak for him or herself, and he did so. But he basically is alluding to the fact he didn't have any knowledge that anything he was doing was wrong, and he's confused, and now this sends a message of confusement to other men, and yah. How can you be confused if you're forcing yourself on somebody? You're not confused. You know exactly what you're doing. So, come on with all this. I don't want to go on anymore about this because this is stupid. He made the choice. He made these choices in life, and then they finally caught up with him. It didn't happen day 1, day 2, day 10, year 10. It took years. Sometimes that's what it takes. Finally, somebody hollers loud. Somebody hears them. This time, they answered the women's calls. That's how it goes. Thank you for this, for listening, because it was a long-winded article. Sorry about that. But if you need verification for the story, please log on to CNN News. Harvey Weinstein sentenced to 23 years in prison. Frail. Isn't it amazing? People only become frail and on walkers and wheelchairs when they go to court, but they were walking and hobbling and jumping around fine before going to court. Isn't that amazing? That people only become ill and have health problems out of the blue when they go to court. Is that from worrying, you think? Possibly. Well, guess what? You've been hobbling now since you've been in jail on Rikers Island. Now you can hobble some more in the penitentiary. You can hobble rightfully so, in style. That's the said update. Thanks for watching, tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, and thanks for joining me. And please keep prayers for my friend Miss Blackwell, who was murdered alongside her friend Miss Barbara Rogers and Millie's daughter, Juliana White. Keep the family in your prayers. Thanks a lot for joining me. Bye-bye.